Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you. I don't need that thing anymore. Do away with that and get into what I want to look at today. If you're listening to the audio only, I would encourage you to go to YouTube, give us a check out there, just see what it's all about. Soon to be on Rumble. All I have to do is remember to put it on there. I haven't figured out yet how to do that automatically in his recording. I have to do it all manually. So, there's that coming. Yeah, I'm running a one-horse show here. Something that I don't want to say it's a pet peeve. I don't want to say it gets under my skin, but using scripture out of context leads to confusion, and it's the confusion that is my pet peeve. That's the real basis of my pet peeve. And what I'm going to look at today is some things that some people use as Messianic prophecies that might not necessarily be, while overlooking others that they ought to be concentrating on. Okay? Two specifically. There's a lot of prophecies in the Old Testament that are referred to as Messianic. Some are, some aren't. And the problem is being able to tell the difference between the two. To tell the difference, it's not always easy, okay? It's just not always easy. What we need to do is look at the passage in context, figure out if we're considering the traditions, or are we just, trying to make something fit where it isn't designed to fit. First verse I'm going to look at is Isaiah 7:14, for instance. It reads, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and give birth to a son, and you will call him Emmanuel." Well, the word virgin isn't used. It's young woman. The rest of it, there's not an issue with. But it's typically used around Christmas time in conjunction with Matthew 1:23. "Behold, a virgin will be with child and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel." There's a little problem with some textual criticism with Matthew 1:23. Not all of the early manuscripts agree on the same terminology. Again, some use young woman, some use virgin, some don't use Emmanuel. Just saying. So, it's pretty obvious Mary didn't name the child Emmanuel, right? She named him Yehoshua, just as Jeremiah indicated in Jeremiah 23:6, "In his days Judah will be saved, and Israel will dwell securely. And this is the name by which he will be called, the Lord our righteousness," or Yehovah Zadokinu. All right. Now, typically that is translated. I shouldn't say translated. Typically it's known as Yehoshua. In English, Joshua, shortened to the nickname Yeshua, which eventually became Jesus. And there is a podcast, audio only version of that explanation there. But the real problem is with Isaiah 7:14, when you use it in context, along with the surrounding passages, it loses its messianic implications. It's that simple. It loses its messianic implications. The child being born is a sign. Okay? There's going to be a child born to a young woman. And then later in verse 16, "Before the boy knows enough to reject evil and choose good, the land of the two kings you dread will be laid waste." So, for Christians who believe that Jesus is God, let me say this: he won't have to be old enough to reject evil and choose good. Okay, so it can't be a messianic prophecy from a Christian viewpoint based on that. Now, I'm not going to go into the details about the two kings' land being laid to waste. If you want more on that, go to 2 Kings 15. Now, too often, Christians will overlook what I consider to be a very stunning messianic prophecy in Isaiah 11. It says, "Then a shoot will spring up from the stump of Jesse, and a branch from his roots will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and strength, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what his eyes see, and he will not decide by what his ears hear." Now, just a couple verses later, in verse 10, on that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples, the nations, the Gentiles, will seek him, and his place of rest will be glorious. On that day, the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover the remnant of his people from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathos, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the isles of the sea. Now, practically everyone assumes Jesse here refers to the father of David. If this is so, then the prophecy of Jacob's blessing when he blessed his sons, which is prophetic, that will become true. In Genesis 49:10, we read, "The scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and the allegiance of the nation is his." That's not the only one, though. Micah 5:2, "But you, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, who are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come forth to me one to be ruler of Israel, one whose origins are of old, from the days of eternity." Isn't that interesting? So someone from the tribe of Judah will always be king, remember the word king, over Israel. Not prime minister, not president, king. It's a monarchy. Regular listeners hear me say, probably way too often, we should not use a single verse to build a doctrine, and how we need to put everything in its proper context. Prophecy is no different. Okay? Prophecy is no different. One verse might sound like the fulfillment of prophecy, but the entire event needs to be completed in order for it to be prophetic. The entire event. Now, there's no denying that Yeshua Jesus is found throughout the Hebrew Bible, what Christians consider the Old Testament. However, to force something to refer to him that doesn't completely fit adds to the confusion. And confusion is then compounded by tradition, poor translation, and to put it bluntly, just plain ignorance of the Bible. Okay? A lot of folks I know, they understand I don't like to get involved in eschatology. I don't. It's not that I hate it. I just don't think it's necessary to attempt to put a timeline on something we don't understand yet. And anybody who says that they understand it, they don't. Don't care who it is. But I'm going to say this. The end times are getting closer every day. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Okay? They're getting closer every day. Now, more than any time in history, we need to get this right. If we're going to be serious about the Bible, if we're going to be serious about knowing God, worshiping God as our God and our Creator, we need to stop perpetrating our traditions. We need to stop using Scripture out of context. Those things, it's time to leave them behind. It's time to grow up. Now, I'll also say this. Apparently, there's a great deal of money to be made telling people what they believe is correct. So I'm not going to see any of that. I'll never see any of that money because I'm not going to tell you what you think is always correct. Remember, your heart is deceitful. Well, I believe in my heart. Well, that's nice. It doesn't matter what we believe in our heart. It matters what the Almighty had someone write down. I'm digging for the truth. I dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth. And it's the truth that our Creator would have us live by, living the way we are designed to live. Now, I'm not saying I'm always going to get it 100% right. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm not going to stop digging either. I had a conversation this morning. And I said, you dig and you think you've gotten to the bottom of the hole, and what you find is more hole because there's more to go. There's always more to learn. Well, I'm wrong. I admit it. You've heard me do that. Regular listeners have heard me do that. It's been a while, thankfully. It doesn't happen often. The reason it doesn't happen often is because I attempt to put the word of our Creator in context. I check as many variables and possibilities as I have access to and allow His Spirit to guide. I follow. And when you do that, you're going to find the truth every time. You might not like what you find, but it's not up to us to like it or to hate it or to question it. But when we know we found the truth, we sit back and we think, well, it's His word, it's His creation. We just have to accept it. We just have to accept it. Not everything in prophecy is going to be like you think it will be. People 1,000 years ago probably had a completely different idea about what prophecy meant than we do today. People 5 years from now might think something completely different. People tomorrow might think something completely different. We need to look at the events, put them in context, and make sure that what we're reading is the way that the people it was written to would understand it. As close as possible. Are we going to get it perfect? No. But we can try, and we can strive, and we can study, and we can work at it because it's worthwhile. Something to think about until next time. And until then, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.